Welcome to the deep dive.
Okay, so today we're tackling a really fascinating kind of paradox. How does a book find, genuine humor and really sharp social commentary in one of Pakistan's, well, most turbulent historical periods? It just seems like it shouldn't work, right?
It absolutely sounds counterintuitive, yeah. And that's precisely what we're exploring with Moni Mohsin's The Diary of a Social Butterfly. It's this unique comedy novel written as a journal.
Right, compiled from columns.
Exactly. Columns spanning 7 really critical years in Pakistan, 2001 right through to 2008. So our mission here in this deep dive is to figure out how this satirical work manages to capture these huge sociopolitical shifts, but through the eyes of a completely oblivious socialite.
Oblivious is probably putting it mildly.
Huh, probably.
Right.
And, why the humor actually works so well and what deeper truths it might reveal.
Okay, let's set the scene a bit, because the backdrop for this comedy is, well, it's pretty heavy stuff. We're talking about a time defined by huge events. Wars, militarization, obviously 9/11, and everything that followed. Right, and within Pakistan itself, you had a president facing major dilemmas, a catastrophic earthquake, emergency rule declared.
Benazir Bhutto's assassination, the rise of fundamentalist policies, I mean, it's intense.
It really is. And what's so striking, as the source material highlights, is how all this massive political and economic turmoil just sort of slid past Butterfly's gossip sessions.
Like water off a duck's back.
Pretty much. For her, things like bombs going off or major political crises were kind of secondary to her social life. It makes it seem, well, almost inconceivable, as the analysis puts it, that this period of intense instability could be funny.
Yet somehow Mohsin pulls it off. The absurdity is the humor, I guess.
Exactly. That disconnect is where the satire really bites.
So tell us about this central character, Butterfly. Who is she?
Okay, so Butterfly. She's a socialite in Lahore. She's married to Janu. He's described as, sane, steady, an Oxford grad, kind of the grounding influence, or tries to be.
And they have a son.
Yeah, a teenager, Kulchu. But Butterfly herself, well, she comes across as shallow, definitely pretentious. The book calls her a party postulant, which I love.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like it's her religion.
Totally. She's just fundamentally out of touch with reality, obsessed with parties, social events, getting the perfect outfit, the right shoes, the best hairstyle. That's her world.
Even while somehow commenting on major world events.
Oh, absolutely. She gleefully raves and rants about different geopolitical situations, but, with zero real understanding. Her priorities are just elsewhere.
And this brings us to her voice, right?
Yeah.
The way she speaks or writes in her diary.
Yes, this is arguably the book's greatest strength. The humor isn't just situational, it's deeply linguistic, and it's very much intended and well thought out, not accidental.
How so? What kind of things does she do?
Well, lots of things. For instance, misspellings based on how she hears words, false phonetic realizations. They're often hilarious. And her language is this amazing mix.
Like mixing English and Urdu.
Exactly what the source calls casual code borrowing. It reflects a certain kind of elite Pakistani speech pattern, but she does it in a particularly funny way. Plus, things like funny parsing, breaking up sentences oddly, and literal translations of idioms.
Oh, I can imagine how that would sound, taking a common phrase literally.
It leads to some wonderfully absurd moments, and she even applies Urdu grammar patterns to English sometimes. It all builds this incredibly distinct, completely authentic sounding yet ridiculous voice.
It sounds like the language itself is doing a lot of the satirical heavy lifting.
Definitely. And structurally, it's clever, too. Each diary entry apparently starts by mentioning some big political event.
Okay.
But then, boom, it immediately pivots to something in her social life, some party drama or shopping crisis, which becomes the real focus.
Ah, so that contrast is built right into every entry.
Precisely. And that juxtaposition, that structure, is what lets the book comment on these larger socio-political and economic trends without being preachy.
So it's not just laughs at her expense. Her trivial concerns actually become a window onto bigger things.
Exactly. Think about it. Her obsession with shopping reflects rising consumerism. Her complete inability to relate to anyone less privileged highlights the growing gap between rich and poor.
Right, the cultural alienation.
Yeah, and through her little world, you see hints of, the breakdown of law and order, the tensions between civil society and the military, even women entering the workplace more, and that classic tension between old money, the landed gentry, and the nouveau riche.
Wow, so it's all layered in there beneath the surface of this seemingly light diary.
It really is. Her superficiality paradoxically becomes this very effective lens for social critique.
So wrapping up the Diary of a Social Butterfly,
Yeah.
it really offers this unique, maybe exaggerated, but definitely satirical perspective on a complex time. It uses her obliviousness, her quirky language.
To make light of very serious things, yeah. But in doing so, it shows us something quite profound about that society, grappling with massive changes through the eyes of someone who seems, well, almost entirely detached.
It's a fantastic example of how humor, even absurd humor, can be such a powerful tool for commentary, making you look closer.
Which leaves us with something to think about, perhaps. What does it tell us about a society, or maybe any society, when the really big, important stuff and the utterly trivial seem to exist side by side in people's awareness?
Hmm.
And maybe, how does humor, even humor that feels a bit detached or, insensible on the surface, how does that actually help us cope with or maybe even understand a world that often feels overwhelming?